The German Chancellor Friedrich Merz saying as well overnight that a meeting between Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskiy and Russia's Vladimir Putin is unlikely to happen, even though, of course, that is something that had been touted by the US President Trump. Russia, as we now know, overnight unleashing a new wave of drone and missile strikes on Kyiv, killing at least 20 people. The attack comes in defiance, of course, of US calls for an end to the fighting. Critically, we've seen UK infrastructure and EU infrastructure in Kyiv being hit. Maybe this is the reason why we are seeing some of these defence names being pushed a little higher this morning. Our global defence editor, Gerry Doyle, joining us around the table. It seems logical to me this morning that you've got a situation that is deteriorating once again in Ukraine. We do seem to be seeing an escalation in a conflict that is already fairly hot at the moment and has got... It's going to be interesting to see how it develops over the next few weeks. We're seeing European kit being hit. It does seem as if there's maybe renewed interest from the Europeans in providing support to the Ukrainians. Is that why maybe we're seeing the reaction we're seeing so strongly in defence names this morning?
That could be part of it. If there were security guarantees, if that was part of a peace process that now seems to be deeply in doubt with all the attacks in recent days, then there would be movement and purchases from those European defense companies. If there's not a peace agreement, if there's not security guarantees, if the war continues the way it is, there's still going to be those orders.
Sorry, just before Crowley jumps in, which one of those two things, on balance, provides more support for the European defence companies in terms of the orders they are likely to receive?
I think it's difficult to say. If the war escalates and if the European countries get more deeply involved than they already are, then it could certainly lead to a ramp-up in industrial activity.
Well, speaking of a ramp-up, I believe Rheinmetall has just recently opened its new factory in operation. Talk to us just about that kind of capacity ramp-up, if you can. I mean, we've been talking about this in the market with this fiscal spend for so long. It feels like we're finally seeing that actual ramp-up take place.
Yeah, I think a lot of it had been sort of happening quietly over the last 2-3 years, an expansion of industrial capacity, things that aren't necessarily making big headlines, you know, small arms, ammunition, bullets, and things like that. This Rheinmetall factory is the largest artillery ammunition plant in Europe, perhaps even the world at the moment. So that's a big deal for them, and it shows this investment in industrial capacity on the defense side.
And if you were in the defence industry, what are you watching most for when it comes to the Modi-Xi Putin summit that's coming this weekend?
Well, I think it's less in terms of the military hardware. You know, China and India aren't going to provide that kind of material support for Russia. I think where you're going to see more impact is on the energy side. Obviously, India has gotten in some recent hot water with the President of the United States about their purchases of Russian oil, and that Russian oil is really the main thing that's keeping the Russian economy ticking along right now, as it's on a war footing. But even that's causing problems for them because they budgeted for a much higher price for oil this year, about $70 a barrel, and it's much lower than that at the moment. So that's putting strain on their war machine.
How much capacity does Europe now have to meet the war needs of Ukraine? What caught my eye this morning was Denmark, Norway and the Netherlands potentially buying 3,350 ERAM. These are standoff cruise missiles. But they're buying them from the United States in order to feed them in to Ukraine. That signals to me that Europe still doesn't, even with the success of MBDA and all the kind of missile production we have here, that we still don't have the capacity to do what we need to support Ukraine from a purely European point of view.
Well, some of it is a matter of capability and some of it is a matter of capacity. I think the ERAM is a good example of capacity. These were missiles developed last year by the United States, sort of using parts that were found under the couch cushions, right? These are
low cost.
Yes,
lower cost.
Exactly. So these were sort of assembled in an ad hoc or expedient way as a means of providing Ukraine with a large number of standoff weapons in a short amount of time. And so what's happening is these European countries are buying them from the United States and transferring them to Ukraine. It's basically the same as if Ukraine had bought them themselves, although that particular mechanism has become more fraught lately.